Hmm.
It said insufficient space, but I'm like, I have
Gosh,
plenty
I
of
hope I didn't click the wrong button. I clicked a button just, I did like knowing that we're recording, but I hope I didn't hit anything to send cancel or anything like that.
No, I don't think so, but
I'm
yeah,
still
if
seeing
someone,
recording across the top and it has a pause
Okay.
option, so I think
Oh,
it's
I'm
still
seeing it.
recording.
Yeah, I'm seeing it
I
too.
did
So
record to
weird.
the cloud, so that might be on mine, but Pam, I'll send you
Thank
the
you.
link if that's okay afterwards.
Absolutely. Yeah, I got a weird pop-up that said it stopped for me.
Yeah.
So hi there. Welcome, Jen. How are you doing? Welcome to everybody who's joining us. We're getting a little tiny bit of a late start because I started and then my camera or my Zoom said all of a sudden it wasn't recording anymore. So I'll kind of introduce myself again. Welcome. This is a special share out for the Learning Innovation Summit. We have a panel of 6 presenters, one, two, I think it's 6, 7, who are here to share. We'll let them share first, and then when they're done sharing, it's sort of an open discussion. If there's anything anybody wants to celebrate or that they learned at the Innovation Summit, something that you found interesting and you were able to implement right away, we offer that as a kind of a roundtable discussion. So I am going to go ahead and ask Roxanne, would you reintroduce yourself now that we're recording again?
Hi, I'm Roxanne Pompilio, and I teach U.S. history for 8th graders at Lewis Middle.
I'm Tanya Lake. I work for Dimensions Collaborative. I'm an educational facilitator and I'm our ed tech manager.
Hello, everyone. My name is Marcelino Ugarte. I'm the newly hired ELAP coordinator out here at South Bay Union School District. So super excited to be here, just kind of taking on this new role. Prior to being here, I was in Chula Vista for 24 years, serving as a teacher at various grade levels, and then also had some some brief AP experience. So I'm a father of 3 and a new grandfather. So
No
yeah, lots
way.
of changes. Lots of changes.
Congrats.
Yeah.
My name is Ruben Samanigo III. I am an ELOP teacher here at Feaster. It's my first year as this role. I used to be a DI teacher, 4th and 5th grade DI teacher, and now I work with CTE teachers, and I help them how they can how can they take their CTE abilities and their knowledge, and we can wrap it around like academic concepts as we're teaching them.
Awesome. Thank you. Other presenters?
I am Heather Gallion. I am Ruben Samoniego's background twin. Thank you, Mr. Samaniego. And I am the innovation coordinator here at Feaster Charter School. So that means grants, partnerships, and technology, and all of our communication goes through me. So pretty much if it plugs in or goes online, that's my realm. And as Mr. Samaniego shared, we are down here in Chula Vista. Marcelino, we're sad to have lost you, but congratulations on the ELOP coordinator position.
Thank you. Thank you. No hate. No hate.
No, there's never hate. We're so close. Thank you. So I'm really excited to be here just to reflect on our learning and everything that we have taken away and implemented since the Learning and Innovation Summit.
Awesome. Thank you. And Eric, I think you're our last presenter.
Yeah, so I'm Eric Frey. I'm a science teacher here at San Pasqual Academy, which is the only residential school for foster kids in the country. We have a wonderful facility here, full lab, which I take full advantage of. And I've been so happy to be part of Pam's installment for our regular meetings for different types of concepts having to do with teaching, 3D printing, related. And so I feel like this is the Innovation Expo. I was so excited to have it be to be here in San Diego, because I'm used to flying out somewhere and going to a hotel room, and here I could just leisurely drive in and saw some wonderful, wonderful exhibits. So congratulations on that.
Awesome.
Expo.
Well, we are trying to make the Learning Innovation Summit have a lot of value for teachers in San Diego and kind of be a local homegrown sharing of what's going on in the county. We are having the Innovation and Learning and Innovation Summit around the same time next year. So the date is actually August 23rd, and it will be again at our main campus. That it's a Saturday, so the parking there is really nice, makes it easy. We are hoping to expand it out a little. So I was saying to this group of panelists and anyone who's here today that if you are willing to, be part of that and to present for us now that you're having like a little taste of presenting here. I would highly encourage you and anyone watching to do that. Roxanne, did you want to drive your own presentation and share your screen today? Roxanne's going to go first. I don't mind doing it. I can share my screen.
I would be happy just because I have two different screens right now and I
Awesome.
haven't been driving in Zoom for a while. So just
Okay, cool. Let me get my screen up then. And what I will say here is, so this is the Learning and Innovation Summit share out, and I just went out of my thing. That's nice. All right, special share out. So again, we wanted to have just a follow up for people who came to the conference to have the opportunity to hear how other people implement things that they learn at the conference. And then I always, as a teacher, I used to love to walk down the hallway and talk to teachers in my building and get ideas from them. I kind of miss that about not being in the classroom. It's the teacher down the hallway kind of effect, right? Where you can get new ideas, gauge what you're doing and go, oh, I love that. I'm going to implement that right away. So we thought we would try to represent that a little bit post-conference and give people that chance to share. All right, so I'm going to go here, Roxanne, for you, and I'm going to let Roxanne take over for a little bit.
thanks. So can everyone hear me okay? Okay, cool. So I'm Roxanne Pompilio, and I loved a lot of the sessions that I attended, but I really got into some of the Magic School sessions. So I went to both of them. I went to the Leveraging EdTech to Elevate Education, and then also the one for preventing teacher burnout with Magic School AI. And I was going to talk a little bit about some of my favorite Magic School AI teacher tools that I learned about and then tried, but then also a little bit about how more recently I launched the student section of Magic School and had the opportunity to see how it was impacting my 8th grade students. And then finally, I have a little bit of advice for teachers kind of taking that leap into using Magic School AI and perhaps tips for getting the most out of Magic School AI. So if you want to go to the next slide.
There we go.
So first, and this isn't a presentation on Magic School per se, but just some of the favorite tools that I did learn about, and there are a lot of teacher tools. I kind of started small, and one of the ones that I really love is the multiple choice quiz feature, where you can kind of quickly generate a multiple choice quiz. And then I had the free version for a long time, but they added like a pro kind of trial with it. And I even got to export it into Google Forms, and it was a big time saver. The other one that I use a lot and I really like is it's a text leveler. And I do a lot of primary sources as a history teacher, and a lot of my students cannot read some of those sources. So this is particularly useful. And then also the YouTube video question creator. So if I'm showing a YouTube video, you can quickly create questions to go with it. And this used to be, I don't know, really time consuming, and it isn't anymore. It also will summarize your YouTube videos. So these are some of just my favorites, and then you can see some of the other ones on here. Next, I think we'll talk about maybe how I'm using it a bit with students. So one of the things that I did is, and this was something I was really nervous about trying, and I don't know why, but I was just nervous about it because I wasn't sure like what to pick for students and whether or not this would go well. But I finally kind of took the leap and just, did it. And I was teaching this week, actually. I had 2 different things going on because we're doing like a butterfly project on the Holocaust. And then at the same time, we're trying to wrap up our Constitution unit. So I have all these lessons on the Bill of Rights. So I was trying to, I don't know, make the best of the time. And one of the things that I did is I selected tools that I really thought would hone in on the lessons that I wanted to do with students. So rather than giving students, I don't know, 50 tools at one time that they could all explore and try, I started with just a few at a time. And I think if I were to redo this, I might even start with fewer than I did. But I had one of the ones that I've been using, and I've tried this in a lot of different apps, is these character chatbots where students can speak with a historical character. And because we have the Butterfly Project going, I set up one where they could talk to Anne Frank. And then I also tried the same one in CuriePod. So I'm kind of curious to see which one students like better. And I haven't gotten that answer yet from them. So I'm looking forward to getting that answer. The image generator, I decided we primarily use Adobe Express, but for generating images, but I decided to add this because my students already know how to use this tool. And I thought, okay, it might make it easier for them while they're working on their Bill of Rights project if they wanted to use generative AI to create an image. I also recently got a student from Portugal who does not speak any English. And so I've been trying out the Translate tool, which I have noticed a few hiccups with. So that's still kind of a work in progress. And she's also helping me test it out. And then one of my favorites is the Customize Your Own Chatbot. And I've had some prior experience with prompting and developing chatbots. But what I liked about this is I feel very safe with it because it has really good filters, and you can also moderate what you're doing, and students know that you're moderating it. So, they're not just going to say anything, or maybe they might try at first, but, and you can really customize it. So I did this one where I basically made it where I gave it a role, where it actually works for like the ACLU, and then it was familiar with the Bill of Rights, key constitutional amendments, and then also it was very familiar with even student rights, or what students would have as rights. So a lot of my students played around with this chatbot. And then we were having a quiz this week on the Bill of Rights and key constitutional amendments. So I also created a study bot so that students could play around with that. And then the one that I did not customize was the writing feedback. I decided I'm just going to let students try it and see. And I'll let you know on the next page. I have two of these examples to kind of show. One is the Anne Frank. So this is just, if you can see it well enough, it shows a student chatting with Anne Frank. So it has the initial, what Anne Frank, or the chatbot for Anne Frank, would say to kind of start everything off. And the student had asked, what did you write in your diary? And then the AI answers. And then the student wrote a follow-up question, and then the AI answers. And I thought this worked really well. And I tried it out first. I definitely recommend that teachers try it out and test it out before you just, kind of push out the tool. And I even asked some questions that might not be appropriate, just to kind of see if it would answer them. And it actually, on some of those really sensitive type questions, it said, I can't do that. So that kind of alleviated, some of the anxiety I might have had, like just letting students, chat with a bot. If you go to the next slide, I have a sample. This is a student using the writing feedback for the Bill of Rights brochure. Now, thinking about this, part of the reason I didn't customize this was a time factor. I was pushing out a lot of different things kind of at once. And I thought, well, some of my students have had a little bit of prompting experience, so I'll see what happens. And this student, I think the prompting could have been better. You can kind of see what he put. He's at 8th grade, and he was developing a brochure. So students, basically, they could either do a brochure or they could do a children's book on the Bill of Rights. So that was the audience that they were going for. And this student was doing a brochure, and they were trying to get their brochure to be in 5th grade friendly language. And I think at first they got feedback a lot on their writing mechanics and areas for growth and strength. And then this student was a little bit frustrated because he's like, I just need to know, like, I need it for 5th graders. So then this was the additional feedback. And in this project, I told students that they could use AI, but if they use AI as part of the rubric, they actually had to explain how they were using it. And I'll get to that in a moment. Okay, if you go to the next slide. So overall kind of impact with what I tried with students, the character chatbots and study bots, these are really easy to customize. I mean, I don't think it took me more than 5 minutes, and they're also easy for students to use. The custom chatbot is a little bit more, it does take a little bit more time, and you need to know a little bit more about prompting. You maybe need to test it out, but what is really, really great with Magic School is they have these exemplars, and you can kind of click on it to kind of see, you know, what it should look like, and that made it much more easy to kind of customize the chatbot, because there are a lot of kind of walkthrough step-by-step and examples. And then once you get it developed, it's definitely a teacher time saver. And I've been starting to do these a lot for different purposes. And then the other thing you can also do is you can save the template, so then you can reuse it, or you can easily edit the template when you're done. The writing feedback, and I mentioned earlier, I didn't customize the tool. Maybe if I had to rethink this, I might do that, or I might do more to kind of model with students how they might go about prompting it and how they might go about using it. Some students were able to easily figure it out on their own. Other students, I think, kind of needed a model. And then some students, I kind of sat next to them and we kind of walked through it together. Yeah, you can go to the next one. Okay. So a little bit of advice: start small, don't dive in all at once, do a few tools at a time. And this would be both the case with the teacher tools and with the student tools. It took me a long time to really dive into Magic School, because I was like nervous about all of the tools. And then finally I'm like, okay, I just need to do this. So I did. And then prompting the exemplars I mentioned, that's a really good way to look at how the prompt is written, and then what is kind of being produced, or what the output is. And then if you are prompting, you want to give the chatbot a role, a task, and then details of what you want it to do. And then you also want to give it some guardrails or set some limits, so that it's not giving like health advice, legal advice, personal advice, or things like that. Save the templates. There is an option right in Magic School to do this. This will allow you to remove the tools that you don't want to use for all of the lessons, but you might want to use them later. It definitely saves time. And if you want to use them in some classes and not others, that also helps. And then include AI use in the rubrics. And I think it'll work, hopefully, if you click on the link, but I was just going to show how I put it in the rubric, and then that'll kind of wrap up my presentation. I don't know if I went 10 minutes or more.
Perfect. No, you're good.
Okay, so basically, you don't need to look at all the rubric, but right at the end of the rubric, there's a citation, and like I required them to use MLA format, and then I also had them cite their graphics and images. And one of the things I asked is, and I showed them examples, go back up a little. I showed them examples for if they are, going to use AI, and it's like an AI generated image versus like if they were using Creative Commons, like how they'd cite these images. But what I had them do was I had them talk about like how they were going to use AI. So I gave them some examples so they could use AI in this project to either get like to brainstorm, they could use it to assist with organization and layout. They could use it for spelling and grammar. They could also use it if they were wanting to say they had problems with their title and they couldn't make it fifth grade friendly because they're creating a children's book. They could kind of use it for that. And then at the end, they had to do kind of a little writing reflection where they also had to talk about how they used it and kind of evaluate whether or not, like, what worked, whether or not it didn't work. If they didn't use it because they did a paper brochure or a paper children's book on the Bill of Rights, why didn't they use it? And I mean, some said that they didn't use it because they felt they didn't need it. Like they knew enough about what they were doing, so they didn't want to use it. And a few of them were actually afraid to use it. And I don't quite know why, but they were. But it is middle school, so I don't know. But anyway, that's me. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for sharing. I don't know, Eric had to go home suddenly. He said his wife called and he needed to get on the road, and I hope everything's okay with him. So we have Ruben, let me see if I can say your name correctly. Samaniego? Did I say that
Yeah,
correctly? Oh, wow.
Samaniego.
Samaniego. Okay.
You
Ruben,
got
take
it.
it away.
Thank you, Pam. Let me share my screen over here. All right, so the conference that I went to, the conference that I went to was a Constitutional AI by Aman Sota. Something that I picked up from there, like it was pretty good. Something he talked about there, it was about, he used a program called Notebook LM. And something about Notebook LM is that, think of it, coming in, Alex. Something about Notebook LM is that when you think of ChatGPT, you're kind of asking it a question throughout the whole, it takes it from the whole internet, pretty much. It grabs it from the internet and brings it back into you and gives you something. The cool thing about this tool right here that I learned from this conference is that, all these windows on the way, here you go. Notebook LM, here you go. What you can do, you can grab an actual PDF, you feed it into the program, and then you can ask it questions, and its only responses will be based on that PDF you gave it. So it's kind of, think of it as the power of ChatGPT, but with the rails of the specific PDF that you have. So that makes it a lot more specific, and it makes it less likely to give you false information, less likely to hallucinate. So I work with, I'm a TOSA teacher. So I'm working with 3 CTE teachers, and some of them are new to our school. And when it comes to a new school, it comes with a lot of new rules, like what are procedures for attendance, what is procedures for behaviors. So what I did, I put the handbook, our employee handbook, and then I gave them, if you have because when I was a teacher here, for example, I didn't ask as many days off. I rarely did. So I'm not too familiar with the process of how to submit for a day off and like what are the procedures. But the thing is with this, like if they have this question about like, all right, like how do I request for a day off? You can go to the notebook, you ask it a question, and it'll give you the response based on the specific notebook. And the cool thing is, like, I also, when I gave it that possibility, I gave them each one a notebook based on their CTE strand. So I have an engineer and architecture teacher, I have an arts and media teacher, and I have a manufacturing and design teacher. So in that way, when I sit with them, we're coming up with ideas. They don't have to like specifically look for the specific standard, but think like, oh, I'm thinking maybe making a lesson around color theory. Oh, let's ask the notebook. Let's say, what standards can we be addressing that touches on your knowledge of color theory? So that way we know we're hitting the standard. We know we're using this expertise. So here's an example. So these are the CTE manufacturing and product standards. So these are kind of like the Common Core standards, but these are specifically to CTE teachers. So problem solving, technology, problem solving, and they go more specifically into like animation, graphic design. So what we would do, we will put this, and then we'll put in a notebook and ask it a question about color theory. But the cool thing is that not only it'll give you the text, but it can also create a podcast that gives you the information as well. So let's say like the way I think of it is like maybe you have a brand new teacher or way you can implement it. You can have a brand new teacher that's new to fourth grade. You can give them a notebook that is specifically with the fourth grade standards, and then have it the ability of the podcast to tell it to them as maybe while they're driving, while they're washing dishes. Because we have to think like us as human beings, we have been listening and talking to each other farther longer than we have been writing and reading. So we want to tap in those those primitive skills that we have as humans. So here's an example. I put a manufacturing design and I turn it into a podcast. So this is like an example, like what it sounds like.
Ever pick up like a, I don't know, a gadget or a tool
Yeah.
or even something simple like a pen and wonder how it went from just an idea to something you can actually hold in your hand?
It's a good question.
Today, we're going to dive deep into that very process with California's Career Technical Education Model, Curriculum Standards for Manufacturing and Product Development.
Okay.
It's kind of like a roadmap for anyone who's ever been curious about how we make stuff.
Right. It's fascinating because I think we often picture manufacturing as this like giant monolithic thing.
Yeah.
But these standards really break it down into
Talk about
four
standards,
distinct
talk about those
pathways.
Okay.
pathways.
And
So like when you start thinking about like what are the possibilities for teachers, I was like, hey, I'm a brand new teacher in the 5th grade. I need to know what's going on. What are the math standards that I need to be teaching? Boom, throw it on the notebook LM right there. When you're on your drive to Disneyland, listen to it. Boom, boom, boom. And that way, the cool thing with this is not only you're exposed to them auditorily, but also you're kind of are giving more ideas of how to introduce your subject. Like you got like through their dialogue, even though it's AI and stuff, it gives you a way how I can mask and kind of present my information a different way. You know how sometimes we get stuck with our own cadence of speaking and our own vocabulary, by just being aware of a different way to introduce something was very, very refreshing for me. And the thing also, I also did it for philosophy. I found another website that gives you free textbooks. I threw in a philosophy textbook in there. Why not? Teach me some philosophy through podcasting. Why not? Something I would say, like when to recommend teachers that haven't started trying things in their from the conferences, like start small. Like our friend earlier was saying, she was testing on herself first. Not being afraid to putting text in there. Like I'm the kind of person, when I'm giving a new tool, I try to stretch it as much as I can to see how it works. So don't be afraid to do that in your own personal time. And that's pretty much how I've been using how this conference helped me out with me and my CTE teachers. I mean, if you're a teacher, you can do something similar with a text you're doing to your students, right? You have the students that have a struggle decoding a text. All right, throw it in there and have somebody tell it to them as they're walking towards school or something.
It's awesome. I've been playing around with Notebook and I love that the podcast feature is so cool because you can listen to it on the way to work, or you can take a couple different articles that you need to kind of summarize, and you're just learning about a topic yourself. And it's such an easy way to kind of digest the information. It also seems like it'd be a good example for students of how to take a longer essay or something like that and pare it down to more conversational, way of speaking about it. When we talk to kids and we say, oh, you can make a podcast, you could do this, you could do that. You actually have the ability to give them something that says, oh, here's an example of something you read. Now let's see what it did in Notebook LM in terms of breaking that concept down and being more conversational about it, like you might do if you were presenting or something like that. So
yeah,
awesome.
some kids might say like, oh, this, like I'm not saying the Bill of Rights is boring, but like, oh, why would I just make a Bill of Rights? Well, maybe it's not the Bill of Rights is boring, is that you're being boring by just pointing it out like there. They can be presented in one way, like.
Absolutely. All right, thank you. Oops, Alex is back. Okay. So we have Marcelino is next. Go for it. Well, let's hear about your esports program. And thank you, Ruben. I'm so glad we're doing this. So interesting.
All right. So I feel like I'm not prepared, but it was a share.
you're good.
So,
Yeah.
okay. So I don't have a presentation.
Because I kind of rolled you in at the last possible second.
No,
Tell us what you know.
I'll know for the next time. So my introduction to my coordinator position very quickly became, hey, you're not dealing with the scope of the kiddos in your classroom anymore, those, projects that you created in your classroom, but to that degree, now it's broader now. So it's not just your classroom, it's not just your site, it's the district. And so for me, one of the first things that I encountered was the question, well, where do I start? What do I choose as a focus when I go to the summit? Given my position, what is the expectation? And so for me, it became very simple, just going back to what I did in the classroom. Well, okay, so number one, your standards. So we have that. And then number two is what is your site's mission and goal? So I took that and I thought, oh, okay. So I started looking at the district in terms of what the goal is for the district. And very early on, the key thing that it was very early on, what I encountered was a word that just really stuck with me. It was just enhance. There's a lot of other verbiage around that, but for me, like enhance is to just improve upon or make better and just kind of outside the box type thinking. What could we bring here to South Bay that would be easily able to implement at least within a year's time, because it's a big task. So anything that you have or you want to start, and some degree, like Roxanne and Ruben shared, those are things that you can implement. You take it on your own, you implement that, you get familiar with it, and you implement that in your classroom. I miss that aspect of teaching, because now I'm not in the classroom. But what I did was I went with that focus to the summit, and I realized, wow, how many opportunities I had to just bring everything back. But like somebody said, I think it was Roxanne who said, you have to start slow or small. And so that's what I did. So I went to a few of the workshops, and there was one in regards to starting a Padres project. I was really interested in that because I'm a huge Padre fan. I'm a native San Diegan. The other one was in regards to esports, because I said, wait a minute, as a parent, I dealt with the e-games, and regulating that at home and all the screen time and everything. And I said, okay, I said, but in education, how does that work? And then there was another workshop where we talked about drones and how to implement drones in terms of education. How can you make that work for your site or at your district? So I brought all that information back, but the one that really stuck out to me was the esports, particularly because there is an existing program already with our 4th and 5th graders who, just similar to what in Chula Vista had, there's an innovation station where you had grade levels of students that would go and visit an actual center. That was taking place here in South Bay, but there was no facility here to visit. So there was the San Diego County Office of Ed had an outside site where the students in 4th and 5th grade would go to visit that throughout the week during the year. And so I said, okay, so we'll start with that. And then about a month after that, I kind of sat on that information. I'm just kind of like, okay, what do I do with it? What do I do with it? Oh man, like I'm so eager from what I saw. A month after that, my director came to me and says, hey, we had a meeting with the superintendent. At the time, we were starting this big rollout for the after-school programs for soccer, and that hit big here in the community. And so the next thing I thought, okay, well, so now the superintendent is thinking about now starting to roll out an esports competitive league. And I said, oh, wow, I have all this information here that I got from the summit. Let me share it with you. And so that's where, at this particular time, we know that that's about a year-long process. I was, for me, I was very eager, knowing that I'm new to this position. I wanted to take that on and get going as soon as possible. And so we do have components of it in place here to make the league possible by next year. And so what that made me do was go and start the process of getting to know people. I'm new to South Bay. As I encountered, a lot of people know each other in South Bay. I'm new. So a lot of the people that I went to was just not only, hey, how you doing? This is me. I'm also bringing something. Let's talk about it, because I needed to find the people. And so finding the people to get it started is where you have to start with first. So we have the foundation for it. There's an understanding. There's already a program for esports here, so there's an awareness of it. But to create a league, I had to go and also seek out models for that. So the presenters that presented at the summit really were very inspiring, from the teacher that was there, the the director that was there, who was a former principal here, and then who I did not know, because again, I don't know anybody in South Bay. Chula Vista, I knew quite a few people, but not in South Bay. And then also the coordinator for the after-school program. So when I met with them after their just fantastic presentation, one of the key things that stood out to me that to look at esports not with the scope of a teacher or a parent who's looking at limitations, but look at just the opposite. So it's a paradigm shift to look at it and say, like, no, this can create career paths for individuals who take that on. And so it is gaming, but there are career paths that are attached to that. So I listened very closely for the rest of that presentation, and I took a lot of names down. I shook a lot of hands that day, and then kept those numbers. And so when I had the opportunity to talk to my director, and she had spoken to the superintendent about what the next steps are, the word enhance stayed with me. So this is something that's going to enhance our district. There's a lot of, and so in talking to principals, the key thing that stood out was our parents need to see this not as more time on screen, but as a possibility, a career path for individuals in our community, for these students in our communities. But we need people. So we need teachers and we need the coaches. And so that conversation it was ongoing. In the meantime, I'm still in the process of doing a lot of research for that to get it ready. But every time there's just like another block that gets built on top of another block in preparation for our esports league that is going to be taking place, gaming league that is going to be taking place next year. So
Awesome.
Collaboratively right now, I've visited the same people that gave the presentation. I went out and looked at the just impressive amount of just structure that is out at Escondido Middle and High School District. I went to Bear Valley Middle and visited that school site, and the program there was just wow. I was even more impressed seeing that in person than I was when I talked to when I attended the presentation. So,
I have to stop you, or if you can, because it's already 4:40. It's hard to believe.
Yeah, I'll sum it up. So very quickly, what we are doing right now is that we are starting small with a teacher club for esports. The principal has had training before when he came from another district. And so we're starting small with the esports, and then rapidly from that point on, we're going to have a lot more people involved, and we're going to create this league by the next year. So I'm really excited about that. Yeah.
Thank you. It sounds like you got a lot out of the conference then to kind of get that started. So that's amazing.
I did.
Just kind of impetus for getting all that done.
Personally and professionally as well. Yeah. Big eye opener for me. Yeah.
Absolutely. All right. So thank you for sharing. Tanya, you're next up.
Okay, we don't need my slide. That was more to remind me the title of the presentations that I had attended. I wear two hats. So I am our ed tech manager. So I'm in charge of a lot of training and bringing in ed tech tools into our school. And I do still have a roster, and I do still direct teach. So for when I approached the day, I wanted to pick some sessions that were geared towards me as a teacher and some towards me as a trainer. So the first one I picked for me is I was going to, for the first time, teach a middle school digital literacy class. So my credential is actually secondary math. So this was going to be a new experience for me. And I went to Digital Citizenship, A Creative Journey Through Design Thinking. I was familiar with design thinking, so this was an entryway for me. And I applied what they did with the design thinking component in their projects. I believe this was Poway District, to my classroom where I do have a TK through 12 situation. So we did just like they did. I didn't reinvent the wheel here, that we were going to pick the grade band right below us, and we were going to design a project for the grade band right below us. So I wove the strands of them learning design thinking, them learning the standards at their grade level, and we're in the midst of a semester-long project of then designing for the grade band below them. And I am the ed tech coordinator, so we wove a lot of tech tools. We learned to design an app, we learned to make a video, we learned to do text-to-speech, we played with some tools. all of that woven together, those different strands. So that is how I applied that to my classroom, what they presented on a smaller scale. I have 11 students, so it's a much smaller scale. For my other role is that I'm in my 3rd year as ed tech manager, and coming from a high school background, middle school is not a stretch, but I wanted to bring something to my early elementary teachers that was not a strength for me. So I went to lifting TK to 2, student voice with video making. So I wouldn't have naturally occurred to me that a kid that young could have made an effective video. So that presentation really wowed me. And it gave me inspiration to then go to my lower L teachers and say, okay, I practiced with this myself in Canva. I saw that it could happen in another district. How can I help you? Let's roll this out in your classrooms. So I made sure they either had a full set of iPads for our TK and K, and then I put Chromebooks in the 1-2 classrooms. And then I started training the teachers how they could support the students. And I said, if you're really lost and you really feel like you can't do it, give me a call. I'll come out to your classroom. The first few times we're going to do this together. So I supported them being willing to attempt it with our littlest learners to provide some voice and choice, brought it back to that UDL lens for multiple means of action and expression in their learning. So we're creating a lot more videos, and we're having a can-do attitude with our littles with regard to, I picked Canva rather than Adobe Express. The presentation showed both. So we have implemented a lot more Canva use in our district after the summit.
Awesome. So again, I'm glad to hear that we met kind of when we plan for summits. One of the things that we do is we think about different strands that we can offer. So, who might be coming and what might interest them, but then to know that you kind of move across those strands is kind of nice too. So we definitely planned for a PK2. That seems to be someplace that doesn't get a lot of attention. And then we go into kind of looking, I know we had like a big AI strand definitely, and then some other strands. So it's good to hear that that was supporting you as well. Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and ask for Heather next. And then once Heather's done, we'll open it up for as much time as we have left to see if there's any questions, or we can go over a tiny bit too. So,
Cool. Thank you so much, Pam. And Tanya, I used Canva, and Ruben, I used Canva to write our 200-page handbook that you are now
Wow.
exporting as a PDF and then summarizing it into something that's actually usable. So thank you both for sharing that little Notebook LM shout out there. And Tanya, I love Canva. So on the screen right now and linked in the chat, you are going to see the notes that every single Feaster Charter staff member who attended the Learning and Innovation Summit took. So this is all of our takeaways. I heard one of the presenters earlier talking about Magic School AI. These are some of our big notes and our big ahas from this conference.
Love
And
it.
this is not just something that I did on my own. Whenever we go to a conference, I always share out a link and everyone is able to collaborate on it. And now all of our takeaways are linked in the chat for you. But I do want to spend just a couple of minutes focusing on one of my favorite resources that I got. It was from the session Leading with AI. And this was one of the sessions at the end of the day. And quite honestly, I was almost like, oh, should I just go home and take a nap? But I was like, no, this one, like, I'm going to hang out here. And I'm so glad that
We
I
did that on purpose.
I was wondering, Pam, I figured that you did. I was like, oh gosh, they really got me with that carrot there. So I was so glad that I did stay, because I took away some amazing things that I've actually implemented into my class. We went on Saturday. My kids on Monday started doing it. So I run what we call our Falcon Report, which is like a school news channel. And our Falcon reporters are using this Music FX. And what they are doing is, instead of relying on a lot of the music on Adobe Rush or on Canva, that tends to get us some copyright strikes on our YouTube videos, I now have them in Music FX, and they can enter any kind of emotion. So they can say, I want something like upbeat pop. and then it will generate it for them. And then it will, I don't know if you can hear that or not, but that's our upbeat pop AI generated music piece. This would also be a really cool social. Oh, wow, it just really wants to play, y'all. It's like I'm upbeat, I'm pop, I'm popping in. Here we go. This would also be a really cool social emotional learning check-in tool for your students to use, where instead of going around the circle and asking, hey, how are you doing today? What meme check-in are you feeling? What number are you? Where are you on the inside out scale of characters, whatever you use? Instead, each kid could generate a song or almost like a walk-up type of music thing that shows how they're feeling. And then they could share it with a partner.
Awesome.
And then they could kind of have a conversation about what kind of emotions that music brought out in someone else. So that was something that I just thought was really cool. And it has a lot of interesting features that you can easily integrate into any subject. I know, Marcelino, you talked about esports. If you are doing live streams, you're going to need some good transition music. Don't get yourself a copyright strike. Use Music FX for that transition. And
I wish that I would have known about this when I was in the classroom, because I would use music all the time for transitions or throughout the time when the kids were working on certain tasks. So that's awesome.
And now you can empower your students to do it and be like, oh, hey, this playlist today is brought to you by Ruben Samaniego. Our playlist today. Awesome.
Oh man, this is awesome. That's awesome.
So this was one of my favorite things. And she brought up a whole bunch of really cool ones. Another one is finding the AI generated vestment. How cool is that for like vocabulary? I thought that one was such a neat one to do. Oh, I lost. Sorry, I didn't choose fast. But who's going to know the word vestment unless they break that down? Right. So this is called Odd One Out, and you have to figure out which one was actually AI generated, and then it will tell you which one was made by AI and which one was actually realistic. So that was a fun one as well. And then the other one that I wanted to show you is arts and culture. So on this one, you have to try to figure out which one is the AI generated art piece. So I just thought that those were so neat, and it's a cool way to kind of start that conversation about your AI policies in school, about how we very often are aware or completely unaware. I can be, deep faked pretty easily here by AI. So getting those conversations going with our kids is going to be huge. And again, all of those resources are linked here in Leading with AI on the Padlet that's in the chat. And you can kind of go through and you can see some of the different ones that I didn't really have time to get to. But this was a really, really cool presentation that I definitely wanted to highlight with you all.
Wow.
Thank you. That's so awesome. So I am rediscovering Padlet because I used to play with it, then Flipgrid came out and it kind of, I just posted. So if you guys aren't on Blue Sky yet, if you used to be on Twitter and maybe you're not feeling Twitter that much anymore, Blue Sky, go check it out. All of the Edu universe is moving from Twitter over to Blue Sky right now. You should make yourself an account. There's a lot going on in there if you're into social media and that kind of stuff. So Blue Sky, it looks like a little butterfly. But I was saying about Padlet, I was thinking, I feel like it's when you have your friends who are just solid friends in elementary school, and then you go to middle school and you have that kind of weird friendship, upheaval, but then you go to high school and you find that solid friend that you had back in elementary school and you reconnect with them and you're like, oh yeah, we got along great and you were wonderful. That's how I feel about Padlet right now, and they've done so many things to it. It's like Padlet 2024. So yeah, definitely check that out too. Sorry for interrupting.
Yeah, actually in one of the SDCOE sessions on AI, the presenter talked about the Padlet image generator.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's really cool.
Super
Padlet is
easy.
up in their game and I like it. I'm here for it.
Yeah. I don't spend money on a lot of apps, and you can have free Padlet's for free on the free app, but I actually am paying for the other one because I am finding so many different ways that I can use it with students. But I used to use the free one and I just kind of would regenerate. I'd have 3 and I would kind of just delete one when I was done with it and have my students go to that same one again. But all of the different tools and things that they offer on them, it's like having Flipgrid again, but so much better organized and easier to get to. And what I love about it is students can choose the way that they want to respond. Do they want to do a video? Do they want to put in a picture? Do they want to do text? And Flipgrid kind of started doing those things, but it wasn't everything right there. And you just push a button and it goes. Yeah, check it out if you haven't done it yet. So hey, I know we have some guests. So Alex and Brittany and I don't know your first name, but Mrs. Cesari. Do you have any questions for us or anything that you wanted to bring up or share? This is the time when I said we'd just bring it to like an open forum. If you don't, that's okay. But if you want to, feel free to unmic. I'm going to give you a second here. Brittany, yeah, I was gonna say, feel free to unmic.
Hi, sorry, I wanted to give space to other people because I have a voice. Well,
I have that same kind.
not really right now. Like I don't really have a voice, but I have a voice. So I was unable to attend the summit this year due to somebody said that they wear a lot of hats. Me too. Due to one of those requirements. And I'm doing a lot of work in AI exploration and developing standards and tech skills that we want our students to be using in the district across grade levels for vertical alignment, across subject areas as well. And I'm curious if you guys have any like resources that you're using in your districts as far as like spreadsheets and what's available and what's COPA and FERPA compliant. And if you guys are also working on standards for your own districts and what that's looking like as well.
Yeah, I'm
Big question, sorry.
No, I'm silent because yes, I do, but let me see if anybody else does first.
Yesterday I was in a PD and they shared this. Sorry, real quick. I'll just put in the link. I'll put in the comments. They showed this website. It's called Teach AI, and they have some like policy things that they've been working. Is what I'm gonna say, bam.
No, but it's a great resource.
Yeah,
Definitely.
it's a really good resource that I just found it yesterday, and I've been dabbling around with it, and maybe somewhere you can start scratching at.
Yeah, and then I was going to say the California Department of Ed has recently put out some guidelines that are helpful. Each district, unfortunately, there's no main repository Common Sense Media will definitely have kind of vetted apps and things that are AI generated that are out there. So you can definitely go to Common Sense Media. I think there's that site conference going on right now, CITE. They apparently, I think they cost something though to be part of their program, but I've heard things across the district, so I can't endorse them in any way, shape, or form, but just to tell you, check it out, because I've heard that they do a good job of doing that for districts. But I haven't had any experience with it myself, and so I have to be careful as a county office agent of not saying that I fully endorse them and then you go find them and they were terrible for your district. But that's a place that you could look. Common Sense Media, I definitely would endorse. They are pretty well known out there as someone that's free and that would have vetted apps and things like that. We have, I can share with you, and I'll put it in the final slide deck that I send out once this video has been posted, that we have a list of like tools and things that are AI for like teacher productivity. And we talk about whether they're freemium or not. Again, we can't say that they've all been vetted and things like that. So that we always send people back to their districts to say, hey, look at these. These are apps that are out there, but we highly recommend talking with your district and making sure they meet your policies. As far as districts can go, I know a lot of districts are kind of flying that plane while they're living in the environment right now. So a lot of districts are writing those guidelines. So actually going to the state of California. They had a web page that was supportive, but not as detailed, but they just recently put out a guidebook. That's a good place to start in terms of just looking, what are the guardrail, we talk about guardrails and we talk about, policies. So policies are kind of more set in stone. Guardrails are kind of what we say to teachers. It's sort of the wild, wild west out there. So what's good practice in terms of, what should you be wary of if you're starting to explore apps? The biggest one, again, would be COPA, FERPA. If it's asking for any kind of information that would be identifying your student, a picture of them, I would stay away from it. If it's asking for them to input their name, or if it's asking you to put in input information about a student, those are things where my red flags would be going up. If it's just that you're interacting with a chatbot, then at that teacher level, you can say, hey, this is a chatbot. Is it the real person that we're talking to? So, they talk about kind of transparency a lot. If you're using AI to grade, then parents and students and children should know when that's happening and for what purposes. So again, there's a lot of good guidelines, but yeah, I can't say that there's anything really set in stone. Check out Poway Unified's AI site. They have a lot of really good listed things. That's Amy Fusek, and their website is pretty cool. And for their teachers, I think they have some that are like on their approved list, and that could be helpful to people. Again, we really recommend you have to go through and do that vetting yourself so that you make sure that you're covered in terms of what if you're putting things into policy as a district.
Thank you so much. Yes,
Yeah.
I've started that process and I have a whole landing page spreadsheet with many different tabs, and we're trying to figure out all of the FERPA, well, it's mostly me, but the FERPA and the COPA compliance, and that's where I'm really, that's my sticking point. Everything else
Yeah.
but we're about to start our tech meetings and developing those policies, those, and sending things out to teachers after that process is done. I'm just part of it. I'm a 6th grade teacher and I just happen to be on a lot of site and district teams.
Yeah. Hey, email me and we can chat about it, because that's what I do for the county office. So I work with
Thank
districts
you.
on that.
I appreciate you.
Yeah.
Thank you. And I appreciated watching all of your journeys and hearing. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Thank you, Tanya. Digital Promise has got great resources as well. Any other advice to people who might be going to a conference? Marcelino, you had some really great ideas on starting points, and Heather, wow. We used to do like a slide deck, but I love the Padlet version of that. That's so well organized. Any other thoughts or things? My biggest thing I always tell people, if you're going to a big conference, I think ours, we got you covered, but I always bring a power strip of all weird things, because there's usually in these conference halls, one outlet and about 50 people trying to charge their devices. You will make friends by being the person who brings the power charger, with the 10 outlets on it. You have to carry it around all day too, so don't make it too big. Yeah, the power strip is the new water station. Absolutely. Any other things we want people to know?
I really enjoyed the Padlet idea, and I think I'm going to use that next time, because I used to always do the spreadsheet, especially if I was going with a number of people and we could kind of all be on it. And then if we went to different sessions, you'd kind of get notes on all the different sessions. So
yeah, that's what we say, divide and conquer, right? So if you're going with a large group from your organization, definitely kind of pick strands. And then if it's something where you're going to it again and again, depending on where you are in your journey, you might find yourself starting in the beginner strand, and then you're like, hey, I want to know what administrators need to do, or I really want to focus on math this time. So the best thing I can say is always prepare ahead of time, have a couple different options. Because when I go to a conference and I don't pick them ahead of time, if I don't really think about it, I wind up kind of either going where my friends go and then we all see the same thing, or I kind of go into one and I'm like, this isn't really what I wanted. And then you go into the next one and I kind of waste a lot of time. So I do find doing a little bit of, picking ahead of time to help too.
Don't
All
be
right.
afraid to talk to people.
Talk to people.
Talk to
Absolutely.
people. You're maybe one or two
Yeah.
degrees from an app or something that you have similar problems, and it's not what you're in the presenter for, but the guy next to you, oh yeah, I use this app right here. Boom, boom, boom.
Right.
Yeah. And bring, if you're TOSA or anything like that, bring your cards with you, because you can always You know, might hear a great thing, or you might say, oh, you're doing some program that I'm really interested in when you're talking to people. Here's my card, you switch cards, and then you have that contact. And it's really nice to have contacts across districts, across organizations. So if you're a private school, to be connected with some of the more public schools, same thing, public schools to private schools. So like people connecting with Feaster all the time. You know, there's so many cool things going on at Feaster. I think you guys could be showing some public schools what to do and vice versa. So, you know, well, hey, we're at a good time here for us to stop. I want to thank everybody for coming. You have made me want to think I am definitely doing this again next year. And all of you who are here, I'm going to highly encourage you, if you haven't presented before, to, you know, consider applying to be a presenter for us, because I feel like I attended the conference in an hour here because I got so many good ideas. Ruben, oh my gosh, I've used Notebook, but I have not thought about it the way that you did. So thank you so much for sharing. You got my mind totally going on what the possibilities, right? All right, thank you so much. Heather, I'll be in contact with you to find out how to get that recording if I did not get it on my end. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Have a good night, everybody. Bye-bye.